books. The second book in the series that was also turned into a film was entitled Skylark, and Patricia wrote this in 1994. Skylark continues to follow the Whitting family. In Skylark, Jacob and Sarah are now married and living on the prairie. There is a great drought on the prairie. There is absolutely no water. Jacob decides to send Sarah and his 2 children to Maine to spend an extended time with Sarah's family. I really love this book because it's in this book where Sarah becomes a true Whitting family member. Before this time, her heart truly belonged in Maine. She was living on the prairie with her new family, but she didn't really belong there. It's during her time in Maine where she realizes that her heart now belongs in Kansas, that this is her new family and she loves them and she cannot live without him. At the very end of Skylark, Jacob returns to Maine for his family to bring them back to Kansas. And at the very end, we also find out that Jacob and Sarah are expecting a child. The third and final book in the Sarah Plain-and-Tall series is entitled Caleb's Story. Now, this book was written differently. The first 2 books were originally written as books and adapted into screenplays, but Caleb's Story was written as a screenplay and then adapted into a novel. The actual film is called Sarah Plain-and-Tall Winter's End. It's not entitled Caleb's Story, but it is the same story. In this story, we meet the grandfather. We meet Jacob's father. Jacob's father has long been thought to be dead. So that was very, very traumatic experience, and there's a lot of anger in this book. Jacob is very, very angry at his father for abandoning him and his mother. This story is all about forgiveness. It's about Jacob forgiving his father. And this story is also told through Caleb's eyes. Caleb is a narrator. The first 2 books were narrated by Anna, who is the oldest daughter. In this book, it's actually a great book because the children are growing up and we see what they're becoming. Anna is becoming a nurse. Caleb is becoming a teacher. And Cassie, who is 6 years old, is very, very stubborn, exactly like Sarah. And she's a writer. At the end of the book, the father, of course, does forgive the grandfather. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the last 2 books in the series. And these books were not made into movies. They're only books. The first one is entitled More Perfect Than the Moon, and it was written in 2004. In More Perfect Than the Moon, the story is being told by Cassie, who's now a bit older. And in this story, Sarah is actually expecting another child, a little boy who she names Jack. Cassie is not very excited about this. She's not very excited about being an older sister. She likes being the center of attention. She's very, very outgoing like that. This book is pretty much about Cassie's struggle to love her little brother. Of course, in the end, she does. The last book I'm going to talk about is called Grandfather's Dance, and this one was written in 2006. Now, this is the series finale. In Grandfather's Dance, Anna is getting married, and most of the story is about planning Anna's wedding. Also, at the end of Grandfather's Dance, we lose the grandfather. He does die. The very first novel that Patricia wrote was entitled Arthur for the Very First Time, and she wrote it in 1980. This book is about Arthur, and during one summer he gets sent to live with his aunt and uncle, and they are very eccentric. And Arthur is he keeps a journal and he writes every single little thing that he sees down in his journal. But the thing about him is that he sees what he writes. He doesn't ever experience anything. And this book is just a journey. During the summer he grows a lot emotionally, and he's taught to live life instead of just writing about it. Another book that I read by Patricia MacLachlan was entitled Journey. This book was also made into a movie. Journey is an 11-year-old boy. He has an older sister named Kat. Their mother, Liddy, abandons them and leaves them with their grandparents. Journey is always convinced that she's going to come back, but she doesn't. And this book is just about them accepting it and realizing that people are not perfect, and using photography. Journey uses photography to get him through, to realize that we can see a lot more through pictures than we can in real life. You can see people's emotions on their faces, and it just captures time. The last book I'm going to talk about is entitled Baby. Baby was adapted into a movie starring Farrah Fawcett. In this book, there's a family who lives on an island. At the end of one summer, they find a baby abandoned on their doorstep, and her name is Sophie. Now, this book is about the family's struggle to care for this baby without falling in love with her. A few months before this incident happened, they lost a baby of their own, and Sophie pretty much teaches them how to get over that, how to heal from it. Sophie's mother ends up coming for her 1 year later. But with this time, Sophie has taught them how to love again. Okay, so this concludes my presentation on Patricia MacLachlan. I really hope that I've encouraged some of you guys to read some of her books. I've read 9 in total and seen 3 of her movies, and she is amazing. She is a great author.